The physical lack you see in your bank account is not a permanent fixture, but merely a shadow of where your attention used to live. I tell you, the world you look at with your physical eyes is not the cause of anything. It is a giant projection screen, reflecting the thoughts, beliefs, and states of consciousness that you have already entertained. When you look at a low balance, or when you feel the weight of bills piling up on your desk, you are looking into the past. You are looking at the harvest of seeds you planted days, weeks, or months ago. Most people look at this harvest, become frightened, and immediately plant the exact same seeds of lack all over again. They react to the shadow and wonder why the shadow refuses to change. You must understand that trying to change your financial conditions by fighting with the outer world is as foolish as trying to change your face by altering the glass of a mirror. The mirror only reflects what stands before it, and your external life only reflects the state of being you occupy within yourself. Let me show you a different way to look at your current reality. If you walk into a room and turn off the lights, the darkness that follows is immediate, but it is not a solid thing. It is simply the absence of light. In the exact same way, poverty and financial restriction are not forces in their own right. They are simply the absence of wealth consciousness in your present awareness. If you have spent years worrying about expenses, feeling a pang of anxiety every time you hand over your card, or envying those who seem to move through life effortlessly, you have conditioned your mind to notice and expect lack. You have given your precious attention to the idea of not having enough, and because awareness is the only reality, your world has obliged by showing you more things to worry about. I have seen men and women completely turn their lives around the moment they grasped this truth. They stopped begging the world to change, and instead changed the focus of their own eyes. You must learn to look right through the appearance of lack. When the outer senses scream that there is not enough money, you must have the courage to say within yourself that this is old news, a dying echo of a state I no longer occupy. The moment you refuse to feed the shadow with your emotional reactions, it begins to lose its grip on your life. You begin to see that you are not at the mercy of conditions, employers, or the economy. You are only ever at the mercy of what you are choosing to believe about yourself in the deep, quiet places of your mind. Turn your back on the shadow, withdraw your attention from the limitation, and let us begin to look toward the light of what you actually desire to be. Wealth does not come to you because you labor day and night or plead with a distant power. It must flow from you because you have already claimed it as your internal identity. You must understand that you can never catch up to wealth if you are running after it from a place of emptiness. I tell you, as long as you view financial abundance as something separate from yourself, something waiting out there in the future, or tied up in the hands of luck and circumstance, it will remain just beyond your reach. The universe does not give you what you want, it gives you exactly what you are. If you are constantly wanting, you are radiating the vibration of missing something, and the world will faithfully return more of that same emptiness to you. To receive wealth, you must first become it in your own awareness. You must wear the garment of abundance before the outer world can ever weave it into your physical reality. I have seen people work themselves to the bone, taking on second and third jobs, sacrificing their peace and their families, all because they believe that physical labor is the sole creator of fortune. They believe that if they just push harder, sweat more, and manipulate the outer world long enough, the money will finally arrive. Yet so often, even when they manage to acquire a little substance, it slips through their fingers like sand, because their internal state never changed. They remained a poor person who happened to find some money, rather than a wealthy person whose natural expression is abundance. Let me show you that your consciousness is the only true substance, the only reality out of which all physical forms are made. Money, houses, cars, and lands are not things in themselves. They are the externalized shapes of your inner awareness. When you change the shape of your awareness, the outer forms must reshape themselves to match the new mold, and they will do so without any painful external struggle. Think of it this way. If you were to inherit a massive estate tomorrow, but maintain the mindset of someone who constantly fears ruin, you would quickly find a way to lose it all. Your habits, your worries, and your decisions would subconsciously drive the money away until you were safely back at the level of comfort your identity dictates. True financial abundance is not a number in a bank account. It is a state of mind that feels completely entitled to luxury, ease, and security. You must begin to cultivate this inner nobility. You must stop looking at your history, your education, or your current limitations to decide what you are allowed to experience. Your true identity is boundless, and it is ready to pour out unlimited treasures the moment you agree to see yourself differently. Let go of the old, exhausted idea that you must earn the right to be secure. You do not need anyone's permission to feel wealthy, nor do you need to wait for a specific event to occur before you can feel prosperous. You can claim it right now, in this very room, in this very second. Close your eyes to the physical world and begin to feel the warmth of security wrapping around you. Feel the relief of knowing that every single one of your needs is met and exceeded long before you even realize the need exists. When you walk down the street, let your posture and your inner thoughts reflect this hidden fortune. Do not look at the world from the perspective of someone looking in through a shop window. Look at it as the owner of the entire street. This is not arrogance. It is the quiet, dignified recognition of your true nature. When you make this identity shift, you will notice a strange thing begin to happen. People will treat you differently. Opportunities that seemed impossible will suddenly knock on your door. The right connections will appear out of thin air, forming a perfectly natural bridge of incidents to deliver the physical wealth that matches your inner state. You will not have to force these things to happen. They will happen because they must. Because the outer world is compelled by a divine law to reflect the identity you have chosen to embody. Stop seeking the gifts of life and start claiming the giver within you. For when you realize who you truly are, the wealth of the world will pursue you instead of you pursuing it. You must completely withdraw your attention from the evidence of your senses and refuse to let a temporary financial reality dictate what is true. I tell you, the greatest test you will ever face on this path is the willingness to look straight into the face of lack, to look at an empty ledger, an unpaid bill, or a disappointing bank statement, and deliberately choose to believe what your imagination tells you instead. Most people are completely enslaved by their physical senses. They believe only what they can see, touch, hear, and measure. If their eyes tell them they are broke, they weep and accept it as the absolute truth. But I have seen that the man who wishes to change his life must become completely blind to the outer world when it contradicts the state he desires to occupy. You must develop a divine stubbornness. You must look at the facts of your life and recognize them, not as final sentences, but as old shadows that are bound to dissolve the moment you stop feeding them with your attention. Let me show you what happens when you react to the evidence of your senses. Every time you look at your current financial limitations and allow yourself to feel discouraged, anxious, or angry, you are giving those limitations your consent to remain in your life. Your reaction is a declaration to your deep subconscious mind that says, "This is real, this is important, and this has power over me." The subconscious does not argue with you. It simply accepts your emotional reaction as an order to produce more of the same. By fighting the conditions, by crying over them, or by constantly talking about how difficult things are with your friends, you are actually pinning those conditions to your world with iron stakes. You must learn to look at your current problems and pass them by without giving them a second thought. You must treat them with a kind of holy indifference. If a bill arrives that you cannot pay today, do not sit over it and let fear grip your heart. Acknowledge it as a piece of paper from a past state of mind, and then immediately turn your attention inward to the state where all your obligations are met with overflowing ease. You must understand that your imagination is the only true reality, and the physical world is nothing more than an echo. If you hear an echo in a canyon, you do not try to change the sound by screaming at the canyon walls. You change the original sound that leaves your throat. Your current financial state is just an echo of past conversations you had with yourself in the dark. It has no life of its own. It cannot sustain itself unless you continue to feed it with your daily worry. Therefore, your task is to completely close the doors of your senses to the outer world. When you walk through your day and your eyes tell you that you cannot afford something, you must instantly revise the thought in your mind. Do not let the limitation register as a fact. Instead, Tell yourself silently, I have a hidden source of supply that the world knows nothing about, and my wealth is limitless. You must live in this inner world so completely that it becomes more real to you than the solid ground beneath your feet. I know how difficult this seems when the pressure of the world is bearing down on you. It takes immense courage to stand in an empty room and feel wealthy, or to look at a small paycheck and feel the relief of financial abundance. The world will call you foolish, impractical, and delusional. But I tell you that every great fortune, every magnificent achievement, and every sudden shift in luck was born from this exact kind of holy delusion. The men and women who have changed their financial destinies did not do so by looking at what was possible based on their current circumstances. They did so by looking at what they wanted and refusing to see anything else. They kept their inner vision so clean, so bright, and so steady that the outer world eventually had no choice but to break and bend itself to match their gaze. Let go of the need to have the physical world validate your wealth before you are willing to believe it. If you wait for the money to appear in your hands before you feel secure, you will wait forever, because the feeling must come first. The feeling is the seed, and the physical money is the flower that grows from it. You cannot have the flower without the seed. So, when your senses scream that you are failing, that you are running out of time, or that things are getting worse, you must look away. Step back from the mirror of life. Sit quietly in your room, close your eyes, and enter a state of consciousness where the problem simply does not exist. If you can stay there, even for just a few minutes, without looking back at the old limitation, you will notice that the outer world begins to lose its sharp edges. The anxiety will leave your body, and a strange, beautiful peace will take its place. This is the exact moment your reality begins to fracture and reform. You have broken the chain of reaction. By refusing to let the temporary shadow dictate your state of being, you have stripped it of its power. You are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are the master of your attention. And because attention is the ultimate creative force, your world must begin to organize a new set of circumstances to reflect your new, unbothered stance. Do not look back at the old world to see if it is working yet. Do not dig up the seed every 5 minutes to check for roots. Keep your eyes forward. Keep your inner conversation anchored in abundance, and let the dead past bury its own dead. Your only responsibility is to remain faithful to the wealth you have claimed within, completely untouchable by the illusions of the senses. When you enter the quiet of your mind before sleep, you must construct a simple scene that implies your financial freedom is already a fact, and loop it until it takes on the tones of reality. I tell you, the twilight state, just before you drift off into deep slumber, is the most precious gate you will ever find. It is the moment when the rigid, critical conscious mind relaxes its guard, allowing you to drop a seed directly into the fertile soil of your deep subconscious. Most people waste this sacred window by rehearsing their fears, counting their debts, and falling asleep with the heavy weight of anxiety pressing down on their chests. They wonder why they wake up to another day of struggle, not realizing they spent their final conscious moments ordering more lack for the morning. You must treat this period before sleep with a kind of holy reverence, using it deliberately to paint a new picture of your life. Let me show you exactly how to construct this scene, for the secret lies in simplicity. Do not try to visualize an entire movie or a long, complicated sequence of events. A complex scene requires too much mental effort, which will only wake you up and defeat the purpose of this relaxed state. Instead, you must isolate a single, brief action that could only happen after your financial abundance has already become a reality. Think of a moment that completely encapsulates your victory. It might be the firm handshake of a business partner congratulating you on a massive success. It might be the specific sight of your bank app showing a balance that makes you sigh with pure relief. It might be as simple as sitting in a chair, holding a piece of paper, and saying to a loved one, "I still can't believe it's finally over. We are completely free." Whatever this scene is for you, make it short, no more than a few seconds long. It must be an action that completely implies the problem is solved and the wealth is yours. Once you have settled on this scene, lay down comfortably and let your body go completely limp. Relax your jaw, loosen your shoulders, and breathe deeply until you enter that beautiful, drowsy state where you are floating right on the edge of sleep. You are still conscious, but the physical world has faded into the background. Now, bring your chosen scene into your mind. Do not look at it from the outside like you are watching a movie screen. You must put yourself right inside the scene. If you are shaking someone's hand, you must feel the warmth of their palm and the texture of their skin. If you are looking at a balance, you must feel your eyes focusing on the numbers. You must see the world from that specific vantage point. Begin to loop this scene. Run through it from start to finish, and then immediately bring it back to the beginning and run through it again. As you repeat it over and over, something wonderful will begin to happen. The mental image will stop feeling like something you are making up, and it will begin to take on the sensory vividness of an actual physical experience. It will start to feel solid, real, and heavy with truth. If your mind wanders, and it will, because the mind is like a wild animal, do not get frustrated or angry with yourself. Gently, firmly, pull your attention right back to the beginning of the scene and start the loop again. You must do this until the action becomes entirely natural, until it feels like you are actually there, living that exact moment in the flesh. I have seen lives completely transformed by this simple bedtime practice. It works because the subconscious mind does not know the difference between an event happening in the physical world and an event experienced vividly in the imagination during this drowsy state. Whatever you take into sleep as a felt reality, the subconscious accepts as an absolute command, and it will immediately begin to mobilize the entire universe to bring it to pass in your waking life. It will orchestrate encounters, spark ideas, and shift circumstances behind the scenes while you are busy living your life, building a perfect bridge of incidents to deliver your physical fortune. Your only job is to stay in that loop until the feeling of having the money becomes more real to you than the bed you are sleeping on. You must understand that this is not a matter of wishing or hoping that things get better. Wishing is a confession that you do not have it, and it only breeds more lack. This is a deliberate act of possession. By looping the scene until it feels real, you are actually experiencing the wealth ahead of its physical manifestation. You are claiming it in the only kingdom that matters, which is the kingdom of your own consciousness. Do not look for signs. Do not wonder how it is going to happen. And do not try to figure out the mechanics of how the money will arrive. The ways and means of the subconscious are completely past finding out. They are far wiser and more powerful than your human mind could ever comprehend. Leave the how entirely alone and anchor yourself strictly in the what is done. As you drift off into deep sleep, let your very last thought be wrapped in the profound relief of this scene. Let the emotion of the wish fulfilled wash over your entire being like a warm wave. Fall asleep with the deep, quiet knowing that you are no longer the person who is struggling, but the person who has already succeeded. When you open your eyes in the morning, do not immediately rush to check your bank account or look around the room to see if anything changed overnight. Walk out into your day with the secret knowledge that the seed has been deeply planted and that it is already growing in the dark. If you will practice this night after night with persistence and faith, you will find that the physical world will eventually have no choice but to break and bend itself to match the glorious reality you have constructed in the silence of your mind. The shift happens the exact moment the wish fulfilled feels natural, ordinary, and heavy with the weight of actual possession. I tell you, many people fail to realize their desires because they keep their wealth on a high pedestal. They look at the life of financial abundance as something incredibly grand, shocking, or completely out of their reach. When they try to imagine having millions of dollars, their hearts race, their minds go wild with excitement, and they feel an intense sense of disbelief or overwhelming emotional high. But you must understand that as long as a state feels shocking or extraordinary to you, it is not yet yours. Ecstasy and wild excitement are signs of separation. They are confessions that the wealth is still a stranger to you, a rare visitor, rather than a permanent resident of your house. The true shift in your reality does not happen during a moment of loud celebration. It happens in a moment of quiet, ordinary naturalness. Let me show you what it actually feels like to be truly wealthy. Think of the clothing you are wearing right now. You do not spend your day walking around celebrating the fact that you have a shirt on your back. You do not call your friends to boast that you have shoes on your feet. Why? Because it is completely natural to you. It is an ordinary, accepted fact of your daily existence. You occupy the state of being clothed so thoroughly that you do not give it a second thought. This is exactly how you must come to view your financial abundance. When you enter your imagination and loop your scene, you must move right past the initial shock of winning or receiving the money. You must push through the excitement until you reach the quiet plateau where the money is simply a part of your life. You must reach the point where looking at a large bank balance feels just as normal and unremarkable as looking at the shoes on your feet. I have seen this subtle shift happen in the minds of hundreds of seekers, and it is always unmistakable. It is the moment the craving completely dies. When you desperately want something, there is a constant, gnawing hunger inside your stomach. You are looking out at the world from a place of lacking it, but the exact second the imaginal state takes on the tones of reality, that hunger completely vanishes. A profound sense of relief sweeps over your body, followed by a deep, still peace. You no longer feel the need to beg, to affirm frantically, or to check your phone every 5 minutes for a sign. You stop looking for it because, in the deep places of your consciousness, you already have it. You feel an internal sigh that says, "Of course it is mine. It has always been mine." This heavy, quiet certainty is the true signature of possession. It is the secret sign that the state has dropped from your conscious mind directly into the bedrock of your subconscious. You must understand that the subconscious mind only accepts what you genuinely feel to be true, not what you merely wish was true. It cannot be fooled by loud shouting, forced positive thinking, or desperate repetition. It only responds to the naturalness of the state. If you try to force yourself to feel wealthy while your heart is screaming that you are a liar, the subconscious will side with the natural feeling of being a liar every single time. Therefore, you must ease yourself into the state. Do not try to jump from extreme poverty to unimaginable luxury in a single, strained leap if your mind cannot accept it. Instead, find the feeling of security. Find the feeling of being taken care of. Find the feeling of relief that comes when a single, pressing bill is completely taken care of, and then expand that feeling. Make that specific relief your natural home. When you walk through the physical world after experiencing this inner shift, you will notice a beautiful change in your posture and your breathing. You will no longer walk with the tight, hurried steps of someone who is running out of time and resources. Your shoulders will drop, your chest will open, and you will move through life with a quiet, dignified ease. When you look at expensive things, you will no longer feel that sharp, bitter pang of, "I can't afford that." Instead, you will look at them with a gentle smile of appreciation, knowing that you could easily have them if you chose to. Because your inner supply is entirely limitless, you become completely untouched by the prices and conditions of the outer world. You are living out of an entirely different wellspring, and because you are no longer projecting the frequency of lack, the world can no longer impose lack upon you. This is the exact moment your money reality fractures and reforms in the invisible world. The seed has broken open beneath the soil. You may not see the green shoot pushing through the ground just yet, but the structural reality of your life has already shifted. The universe is already shifting its pieces, rearranging people, events, and opportunities to align perfectly with the new level of naturalness you have claimed. You have moved from the state of desiring wealth to the state of being wealth. And because the outer world is nothing more than a faithful mirror of your inner state, it has no choice but to reflect that ordinary, accepted abundance back to you in the form of cold, hard physical reality. Do not force it, do not rush it, and do not doubt it. Simply remain anchored in that beautiful, ordinary feeling of fulfillment, and let the Lord do its perfect, silent work. Once the inner seed is planted with that unmistakable feeling of reality, you can rest completely, knowing the outer world has no choice but to reshape itself to match your state. I tell you, your work is entirely done the moment you have successfully anchored that feeling of naturalness within your own consciousness. There is absolutely nothing left for you to do in the physical world to force this reality into being. Most people stumble right at the finish line because they do not know how to rest. They plant the seed at night during their meditation or as they drift off to sleep. But the moment they wake up, they begin to dig it up with their doubts. They look around their room, they check their bank accounts, and when they do not see an immediate, miraculous change, they cry out that the law does not work. They allow their human anxiety to take over, and they begin to plan, to scheme, and to manipulate the outer world in a desperate attempt to make things happen. But let me tell you, any action you take from a state of fear or anxiety will only reproduce more fear and anxiety. You must understand that the law is completely absolute, as reliable as the turning of the earth or the rising of the sun. When you drop a physical seed into the ground, you do not sit by the dirt and scream at it to grow. You do not dig it up every morning to see if the roots have started to take hold. You leave it entirely alone because you have absolute faith in the silent laws of nature. You know that the earth knows exactly what to do with that seed, and that in its own proper season, it will push a green shoot through the soil. You must treat the seeds of your imagination with the exact same holy confidence. Once you have lived that scene of financial freedom so vividly that it feels completely natural to you, you have handed the blueprint over to a deeper, wiser intelligence within yourself. Your deep subconscious mind possesses ways and means that your rational, human brain could never possibly conceive. It sees the entire map of human existence, and it knows exactly which hands to shake, which doors to open, and which paths to cross to bring your wealth to you. Let me show you what it truly means to enter the rest. It does not mean you fold your arms, sit in a dark room, and refuse to live your life. It means you walk through your daily routine with a profound, unshakable inner peace. You do what your hand finds to do each day, but you do it without the heavy burden of survival pressing down on your shoulders. You move through your appointments, your work, and your conversations with the quiet, secret knowledge that your fortune is already secured. If a temporary financial difficulty presents itself during the day, it does not throw you off your balance. You look at it and think to yourself, this is merely an old echo, a shadow of where I used to live, and it has no power to alter the harvest that is already growing for me. You possess a divine confidence that makes you completely untouchable by the opinions of others, the state of the economy, or the current appearance of your life. I have seen the most magnificent fortunes and the most beautiful bridges of incidents unfold the very moment the individual finally let go and rested. As long as you are trying to force the money to come, as long as you are stressing over the timeline and demanding to know how it will happen, you are holding the door shut with your own hands. Your anxiety is a confession that you do not believe it is done, and that doubt acts as a barrier to your own good. But the second you truly surrender, the second you say within yourself, I have seen it, I have felt it, and I know it is real, therefore I can rest, the floodgates swing wide open. The universe will begin to move with a breathtaking speed and precision. A sudden idea will pop into your head while you are washing the dishes. An old friend you haven't spoken to in years will call you out of the blue with an unexpected proposal. A door that was locked tight for decades will suddenly swing open on its own hinges. You will look back at the sequence of events that brought the wealth into your hands, and you will see that every single step was perfectly ordered, forming a completely natural bridge that you could never have planned with your conscious intellect. Let go of the heavy burden of trying to fix your life. Your only responsibility on this earth is to manage the state of consciousness you occupy, for that is the only creative power in existence. When you keep your inner temple clean, when you refuse to entertain thoughts of lack, and when you remain fiercely faithful to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the rest of the world must fall into line. You do not need to fight for your abundance. You do not need to beg for it. And you do not need to prove yourself worthy of it to anyone. It belongs to you simply because you have claimed it within the only kingdom that matters. So, as you finish your imaginal work each night, let a deep sigh of relief fill your soul. Wrap yourself in the comfort of absolute certainty. Rest in the quiet, majestic knowledge that the decree has gone forth, the mold has been set, and your physical reality has no choice but to break and bend itself to match the glorious, wealthy state you have claimed. It is done, it is secure, and it is entirely yours.